Alright, gonna work on putting it back together. Put this back on next. I guess just hit it. I'm gonna put, there was yellow thread locker on here. But all I have some red, so I'll put that red on, and then I'll put the keyway in. Take this off. 3/16, and that's an 1/8 inch for the little set screws that need to go in. It cut my last clip off, but I finished tightening on the set screws and stuff, or whatever you want to call them, 1/8 inch Allen key. Tighten that down. So now, got to put the alternator back in place with the coupler on the left-hand side, at least observing it from the alternator end. There is a washer in between the alternator and the shroud. Looking at it really quick, it looks like it's just a difference in the bracket, because if I'm not mistaken, this is like an alternator that they use in some of the bigger military trucks. It's just the same thing. So make sure you didn't lose this and make sure it goes back in there. Before we go any farther with this, I'm going to attempt to start it. We adjusted the valves again. It's better, but it's still not at the RPM it should be. Alright, I'm just going to start putting all the wires back where they belong now. Everything's attached. I kind of don't remember how exactly the wires ran, but they're there. Alright, we got everything put back together. I put the guard on. I had a couple grounding straps. I put a few zip ties just so everything. The only thing that's not together is the fuel tank, because I haven't figured it out. Me and my buddy Hunter were talking again, and I did already start and run this for, what, a minute or two? Just to start it again. It seems like it leveled itself out. It's still got white smoke, which is common for these if they sit for a while, for all the shit on the cylinder and in the exhaust. You got to run them under load for a while and burn it all out, especially if it was wet stacked. But with it being in the machine, it actually seems like it was running a lot smoother. Oh. Maybe it just doesn't run at 3,600 RPM like a regular AC generator does. Well, fix the governor issue for sure. Now what I got to figure out is why it's not running up to full RPM. I'm going to do some research and fiddle around, and I'll pick up recording once I have an idea. It's back together 100%. This was in the wrong spot. It needed to be in this one. Found inside underneath this nut here, there was some crap built up in the injector. That was one of the things going on. And then once we did that and let all the air purge out and idle for a while, did pretty good. So I reassembled it. I put some new wire loom onto the preheat. I rerouted the wires properly, adjusted this cable a little bit, put the fuel tank back on. New fuel lines. Actually don't have a fuel filter in here right now, but I got one in the way. To replace this piece, this is the same part that I used on the MEP 802 Alpha. It fits perfect. I took the drain cock off the old plug in there. Source new parts for these. These are just generic fuel tank shut-off valves. Full fuel right now. I did pull that fuel dripped was me. It's not leaking fuel. Took this off, reprimed the whole system. The only thing going on with it now, but I knew this was going to happen, it happened, is with this cheap Chinese pull start. It almost like rubs a little bit on the inside, and you hear it kind of chinging like a bell. That happened on my other generator over there, and eventually if you just let it run, it kind of like wears itself in, I guess. But all the fuel is on. Pull that so it's tight. Decompression lever. You hear that ringing. There may still be a little bit of air in the system. You heard it stutter a little bit. The next step is to hook up to something that is a 24 volt and put some load on it. My plan to try this is to start it, put power to it. I got a set of jumper cables, run into some leads that go to the one slave adapter. My negative on this 802 alpha generator is disconnected. All the switches are on, you can see it's totally dead. So this should power this. I'm going to load it under preheat and see that the gauges go up, and then I'm going to attempt to start it. I don't know if this, how many amps everything pulls. It might not be enough to start it, but I guess we'll see what happens. Well, the contactor's on. Showing power. Got the preheat. It's not showing anything on the gauge, but the fuel pump is kicking on. I'm going to try to start it and leave that gauge and see if it goes up. Yeah, I guess it won't pull enough. You hear the generator clicking and it tries to pull. So it's putting out power for sure. I don't know why on preheat it doesn't show anything. I would think it would pull a little bit, enough to show that meter go up. If I connect my battery in here now. Wonder if it'll do like a shared load or something. Starting now. Cool. All right, so the generator's doing what it's supposed to. Cool. All right, I got the similar setup that's running. I got my batteries disconnected. This is 831 alpha. I'm going to go ahead and put the preheat on, and you're going to see the load come on. All right, so I did a couple tests on it, ran it for a while. Besides the recoil start puller ringing a little bit because it's the Chinese copy one, and it's still putting out a little white smoke, but I think what it is it just needs to run under load to clean itself up. But I don't really have anything to put a big load on it because it's 28 volts. But it's good. Everything seems to be working. It's been out here actually sitting in this spot for 2 days. And no dripping leaks or anything like that. So the only real last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a fresh fuel filter in and a fresh air filter. They're on their way. Besides that, now that it's finished, I'm going to look to trade or sell it, I guess, because I really don't have too much of a use for it. But yeah, good project. I learned a ton on this project. I have some more to move on to now.